welcome to the Chamber's Teletown Hall. We're glad to have you back with us again this week and for some exciting discussions. Uh, it's we're glad to see that we continue to gain momentum as a business community in this post-quarantine times. And on the tourism front, this week the Disney Resort will open this weekend, and that will have all of our resorts on Hilton Head Island and hotels up and running again, which we're very pleased to see. Just to give you an idea of what type of occupancy we're looking at this week, we're running roughly in our hotels about 64% in occupancy. So how would that compare to last year? Last year we would have been running about 83% during this week. So we're slowly gaining on it, and we're very optimistic of what we're seeing there. And then on the home and villa front, we're running in the low 80s for occupancy there. So home and villas are doing better right now than the hotel occupancy. As we look forward, we're certainly excited about next week and having the RBC back on Hilton Head Island. We know that millions of viewers and sports fans from all over the globe are going to be dialed in and watching some of the finest golfers perform right here on the Harbor Town Golf Links. And just a little bit later on, we're so interested in hearing again what Tournament Director Steve Wilmot has to say and learning about some of the planning and safety measures that are taking place and other things that'll be going on during the RBC Heritage Week. It's been fun seeing some of the advertisements and promotions about local restaurants that will be showing live coverage and having special promotions and chefs and other individuals coming in to make it a great week for all involved. As New York reopens this week, the publishing world is certainly in a flux, some would say. And I'm disappointed to tell you this morning that Jackie Gifford, the editor-in-chief at Travel and Leisure, who was scheduled to be with us on our call late yesterday afternoon, had some things coming up there at Travel and Leisure that needed her time. And so she won't be able to join us this morning. But she has agreed, and certainly in the next couple of weeks, she'll be back with us to give us a travel perspective and her view and vision at Travel and Leisure. There's certainly no shortage of news and updates related to business and policy coming out of Washington. And we're happy to have back with us again this morning Tom Sullivan. And Tom is the Vice President of Small Business Policy with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And Tom, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And tell us what's going on small business-wise coming out of Washington.
What would the day be like if you haven't at least unmuted yourself one time? So I'm off to a good start this morning. Bill, thank you for letting me talk with your membership today. So today actually is a big deal in the policy world for small business. Both Secretary Mnuchin and SBA Administrator Jovita Carranza will be appearing before the Senate Small Business Committee in just under an hour. A lot of folks pleased with the PPP program, even more pleased with the flexibilities that got turned into law on Friday. And I think anxiously want even more flexibilities and help from the US government that may come out of today's hearing. So Bill, if you'll give me just a few minutes, I'll describe a little bit about the Ppp Flexibility Act that was enacted into law and how that might change things for some PPP small business borrowers. Would that be all right?
Perfect, Tom. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Bill. So we heard from a member of your members, Bill, and other small businesses across the country that, they were very grateful that a low interest SBA loan be made available through local lenders and local banks. However, there was a lot of frustration that the requirement that the loan proceeds be spent 75% on payroll, only 25% on other expenses, and to bring an entire payroll back into operation in 8 weeks just really wasn't workable, especially as many states, cities, and counties are phasing in reopening. So 25%, 50% occupancy and so forth. So thanks to the work of your chamber and small businesses throughout the country, we convinced Congress to loosen up some of these restrictions. So the Ppp Flexibility Act that was signed into law on Friday changes things a little bit. So first of all, the 8-week time frame that folks had to spend the PPP proceeds are now actually extended for 24 weeks. And not only is that time frame extended to 24 weeks, but the percentage that has to go to payroll is down a little bit. It's 60% for payroll. And small businesses have all the way until New Year's Eve to bring back the number of employees that they had at February 20th, 2020 in order to receive full forgiveness. So the simple explanation of what happened in this reform bill is that more small businesses will get 100% of their PPP loan forgiven. So really encouraging bill that Congress took quick action and was responsive to small business concerns. And we're excited that that means that more small businesses will have essentially what equates to a grant from the federal government after several weeks of spending the PPP money.
Thank you, Tom. We have a question here from Jim, and Jim is asking if you had your wishes on what would come out of today's meeting, what would 2 or 3 of those be?
Let's see. My wish list. This is very, very long. So first of all, my wish list would be that small businesses at the end of paying their PPP loan proceeds would absolutely be given the benefit of the doubt. So when a small business says to their lender and the lender says to SBA, this small business spent 60% of their payroll on, 60% of the PPP loan on payroll, I want SBA to automatically say, I believe you. Yes, here's your loan that is completely forgiven, and allow that small business to focus on what they should be focusing on. And that is rebuilding their business, rebuilding their communities, and rebuilding the economy. So the simplicity concept bill is really the most important thing that I'd like to see out of this hearing. And I think, I mean, I know the SBA, a lot of the folks at SBA, and I know their hearts are in the right place and they want to believe small business. But sometimes at these congressional hearings, it's just good for folks to hear the head of that agency say outright, we're going to forgive almost all of these loans because we believe small businesses that tell us that they spent those loan proceeds 60% on payroll. So that's first. The second thing that I would like is I'd like SBA to be more transparent about their disaster loan program. I think it's one thing to say to a small business owner, yes, you're going to get a loan, or no, you're going to get a loan. And I know that that takes time. But what I've heard from a lot of small businesses is frustration that they just don't know. They don't know if their application was received. They don't know what to expect about the maximum loan size amount. They don't know when to expect a decision by SBA. All of these things can be solved with greater transparency from SBA about how things are going and how the 5 million loan applications are going through the pipeline. And I know it's messy and I know it's hard, but I think the small businesses really would benefit from reasonable expectations from greater SBA transparency. And I think third, because you did give me 3 wishes. You're like the Hilton head genie in the bottle. So my third wish would be that throughout the entire federal government, that there be a continual push that the federal government is there to help you, not to get you. I think businesses, large and small, are going to be asking for help. And I want to hear repeatedly that the government officials are there to help those businesses and not not be looking at an enforcement first component. So those three things I think are both reasonable and hopeful for today's hearing.
Tom, thank you. From what we've been hearing, those are certainly spot on, and we hope we'll see some success there as well. A question for you from Hannah. The question is, are changes coming to simplify the 11-page loan forgiveness application? Any idea on that?
Hannah, so the 11-page loan application is not easy, but I do want to make sure folks know the actual application is 1 page and it has 11 fields to fill out. And those are accompanied by 10 pages of information that is intended to help folks understand how to fill out the form. This is very similar to the 1040EZ, where there are many more pages of instructions than actual lines to fill out. I don't think you're going to get a simpler forgiveness application. But what I do want to see, and I actually am very hopeful of this, is I think that we're going to be able to see the federal government endorse an open sourced calculator that has you enter in data and it spits out a verified amount that is the amount of your forgiveness. The AICPA, which is the Association for CPAs, they've actually created this open source spreadsheet where you plug in the numbers and the numbers of your employees, and it comes up with the information that you fill in on that 1-page SBA forgiveness application. And so rather than simplifying that 1 page, Bill, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get SBA and Treasury to actually endorse this calculator so that when Hannah and others fill it out, SBA and Treasury see this application, they know that it was filled out by this calculator, then they automatically say, yes, that is accurate, it's verified, and we approve it. It's kind of like the TurboTax for PPP forgiveness filings. And I think, of course, this would be an open sourced, free for user TurboTax. And I'm optimistic that we're going to get there.
Tom, thank you. And we know you've got a busy day ahead of you. We appreciate all that you and your team and the U.S. Chamber are doing for business. Keep up the good work, the good fight, and we look forward to having you back with us in a few weeks.
Bill, thank you for all you're doing. And it was really exciting to hear the uptick in the tourism numbers. And I'm sure that the RBC event next week is going to bring those numbers up even higher. So congratulations to all that you're doing, and thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, Tom. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Our next speaker this morning is certainly no stranger to any of us, and we're delighted to have Duane Parish back with us, the Director of South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. Duane, good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Bill. Pleasure to be here once again. So I'm happy to report we now have only 44 hotels closed throughout the state, which is down from 56 hotels last week, as well as our high of 575 hotels. We also have identified 11 of those hotels that have taken this time to do renovations and will be closed well past the date of July 1st. So for the week ending May 30th, which was a Saturday 1 week ago, the hotel occupancy for the state was 44.9%. For the southeastern United States was 38.8%, and for the United States was 36.6%. And in South Carolina, Hilton had the highest occupancy that week at 58%. And so congratulations, Bill, to you and your team and everyone in Hilton Head for well, comparatively speaking, successful week. But things certainly seem to be going in the right direction in terms of hotel occupancy. While I've always said this is a crawl, walk, run process, we seem to be moving out of the crawl phase and into the walk phase. State parks, once again, had a busy weekend. We had 8 parks that reached capacity, including Hunting Island. Our playgrounds have now reopened in state parks. We've also returned to full capacity on all of those parks, or what I would call pre-COVID levels of or normal levels of capacity. I mentioned last week about entertainment venues possibly being opened, but the governor's office and DHEC have taken sort of a pause on those, given the increase you've seen in the number of cases in the last week. But at some point, and when I say entertainment venues, I'm referring to movie theaters, live theaters, concert venues, racetracks, bowling alleys, and the like. But at some point, they will be allowed to reopen, but not at this point. Also, our media campaign started on July 1st of When You're Ready, We're Ready, is now in full swing. That seems to be, based on some of the occupancy numbers I gave just a moment ago, seems to be working fairly well. Also want to share with you the Longwoods Consumer Sentiment Survey that I get each week from Longwoods International. Point one, after dining and shopping, outdoor related activities are tops in plans for Americans in their summer travels. Second, those American travelers who have plans to travel in the next 6 months continues to hold steady at 70%. Concerns about the economy greatly impacting the American traveler's decision to travel remains quite low at 19%. 46% of American travelers now support opening up their communities to visitors. This is up 10% since Memorial Day weekend. And lastly, the percentage of American travelers who feel safe traveling outside their community has remained flat at 44%. And then lastly, I want a big shout out to Steve Wilmot and his staff for what they prepared for next week. And I can tell you the rest of the state is really, really excited about the RBC Heritage taking place next week. Pending any question, Bill, that concludes my report.
Duane, thank you. We have a question from John, and John is asking about meetings and conventions and what your outlook is for that for the remainder of this year.
You know, in the crawl, walk, run process, they're still in the crawl process, obviously. But in regard to, you know, the CDC's recommendation is meetings up to 200, no more than 250 people, which is what the state has followed. It's not a legal requirement; it is just a recommendation. But 250. You know, what I think the biggest thing meeting planners have to take into consideration today is space, along with the coordinator or the whoever the person is that's having the meeting. You know, what are they comfortable with? Are you social distancing? Are you comfortable with the meeting is taking place? If CNN has a camera in the back of the room, what are the optics of it? Are you okay with that? I think those are the things to look at in a meeting room that used to hold 200, now maybe only holds 100 to 125 from that perspective. In terms of quantity of business, you know, I don't know that things will be back to normal by the end of the calendar year, but certainly headed the right direction. You know, I think meetings is a fundamental part of our travel industry, a fundamental part of all all business, be it travel or otherwise. And so I do continue to see it improving. I think you'll see some convention centers start to reopen here later this summer. Some of the larger places around the state, as well as some of the larger places around hotels and meeting spaces around the state. Weddings are starting to be rescheduled, be rebooked. It's coming back. It's just slower. It's a little behind the process of just simply leisure travel.
Duane, thanks for the update on that. One item I'll share with you is we're seeing a few weddings that will start taking place beginning this weekend, and so we're glad to see the wedding business slowly coming back to the area as well as the state.
Indeed.
Duane, thanks for being with us. Hopefully, we'll be able to see you next week. And
yes, sir.
Looking forward to a big week, and I know you'll be following on TV as well. But thank you for your leadership at PRT.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate all you do.
Thanks, Duane. Duane had mentioned Steve Wilmot, and that was a perfect lead-in to our next speaker this morning, and we're delighted to have Steve back with us again. A guy that's not only tried to put on one tournament this year on Hilton Head Island, but he's going for his second tournament on Hilton Head Island. So, Steve, welcome, and I know our callers look forward to hearing from you this morning.
Well, thank you, and good morning, Bill. And please know it's just not me putting on two tournaments. It's an incredible staff, and you know, the leadership of the foundation, and certainly this community, and hopefully Duane is still on as well. And I hope people realize the incredible support we've gotten from the state. Duane and I have spoken a couple of times this week already, and we're all in this together. And it's exciting to see how what's gonna happen next week. But you know, I would be remiss too. I know Kerry Tharp was going to be speaking today too, and I know he wasn't able to. But Kerry is truly a class act that I've had the pleasure of spending some time with, and what he pulled off up at Darlington recently with the support of the state as well was tremendous, and is getting us back on track in many different ways. But before I hopefully I'm not redundant on some of the things I've talked about in the past, but again, I look at the fact that the incredible team effort that's being put forth again, that, a big thanks again to the town, the Sea Pines Resort, the Sea Pines community. Dr. Panu is going to be speaking here later today too. USCB has been a wonderful partner as well, and we're utilizing their facilities here on the island this year for some things, and his support and the school support. Jeremy Clark, the Hilton Head Hospital as well, has been again a medical advisor to me and to us in supporting the efforts of health and safety and well-being for all. And that's the utmost importance of this tournament next week and all too. And then, the tremendous community and the volunteers. It is going to be a unique experience, different experience next week compared to what we have in April. But as Duane just mentioned too, for us to once the television cameras go on and close to 40 hours of live TV and people, just dying to see live sports, and certainly, in a premier community in this wonderful low country, South Carolina, it's going to be a win-win-win for everybody, except for maybe a few spectators that unfortunately can't be out there, but it's going to be tremendous. But, the countdown is on. We are full steam ahead. I'm on myself because I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be and where to be, but we have an incredible staff that's on site right now, building out the site of what's there, TV towers. For a lot of you people that don't come into Sea Pines that often or come down once in a while for the tournament, but the TV towers are in place. There's branding going up now. The scoreboards are being handled, and there's some testing and some screening areas that are being done that's different than in years past. But again, social distancing, as Duane mentioned too, is key, upmost and front and center too, and that is important to us. It's important to the tour, and we're working closely with them. But the testing and screening, as I say, all the players and the caddies as well as key staff will be tested prior to being allowed on site and within the bubble, which I talk about, it being the clubhouse and kind of the campus down there in Harbor Town. And then each day, all the volunteers, everybody on site will be screened. Thermal camera screening will take place as well to make sure that all is well. This again, in working with the hospital, these are all, both the screening and the testing is all being done by third parties. So it will not take away from our local resources, but the support from the hospital. There will be doctors here on site as they normally, the support of the hospital and our medical support, working closely with EMS in the town again too. So there will be a big presence. Security, as we know, we're a little different. If you're familiar with golf, we are completely different than what the Colonial is happening out at the Charles Schwab Challenge. They are a core golf course with a big fence around them and no homes on the golf course, and it's parallel fairways and some things. So we have some challenges from that side, being that it is a return to golf and made for TV. But we have identified those areas. We've roped and staked, and we want the community to support the fact that we have this incredible opportunity, and we want to showcase the world how great this community is, and understanding that there is still a medical concern out there, and the safety and well-being with COVID going on still, that make sure we're practicing what needs to be practiced. But security, the presence of security will be even more so. Of course, you won't see any spectators, so there is the support from our local sheriff's department, as well as the state highway patrol, as well as many different federal agencies will be here as they've been in the past. So that is a big concern. And one of the big concerns with that is the exciting news of the fact, which you'll be hearing some things later today, is our field. Our strength of field will be incredible. one of the best, if not the best we've ever had. And that will only add eyes in the skies and people watching on TV, and which will only bring more attention to this incredible community and all. So registration and testing all starts this Saturday. We are working very closely with great friends and partners of the Savannah Hilton Head Airport too. As I mentioned before, we have two 737 Boeing aircraft flying in from Fort Worth on Monday. Savannah Hilton Head Airport's got some great some treats and some surprises. We'll be greeting them over there at Savannah. There's two flights coming in, and there'll be two leaving on the back end. But the Savannah Hilton Head Airport's been tremendous in working with us and having some fun. We're going to have Sir William Innes over there representing us, along with some trustees, and we're going to welcome these guys with open arms from a social distance, and want them to have the best experience here, and come back and return next year and all too. So, Bill, I'll kind of leave it at that. This is a wonderful opportunity for us. We do know that people will be entertaining from their homes and all too, but I just, please practice, please follow the guidelines and protocols of social distancing, and understand that the golf course is a private community, as well as your properties are private communities too. And we want to show the world how great this community, this state is, and let the world know we're open for business, and it's exciting to be a part of the solution, and as we move forward.
Steve, thank you. A couple of questions for you. One is from Tori, and Tori is asking whether or not the public will be allowed into Harbortown during the tournament.
Yes, Harbortown is open. There's limited parking down there. The merchants and will be open, so if people like to go down there and socialize and all, but there will be limited parking, and it will be somewhat difficult to get down there, but it is open.
Okay, we have another question from Meg, and Meg is wondering how many volunteers that approximately will be helping this year with the tournament.
Yeah, basically about half of what we've had in years past, which was 1,200. We have about 600 working different shifts, and there's different responsibilities. There's some committees that we have not that we do not need, such as transportation, and some other committees we've had in the past. But we've had a great turnout. We really didn't have to go outside of our current volunteer group, and everybody was excited about stepping up for this great opportunity. It's going to be a little warmer next week than it will be in April, but it's going to be exciting. And the conditions of the golf course and Sea Pines' commitment has been incredible. Obviously, unfortunately, nobody has played out there for 2 months, but fortunately, no one's played out there for 2 months. So, but Bill, if you don't mind too, I've got one other thing that we are going to announce. I did touch on last week last time I spoke about, next week we are announcing a plaid pledge campaign in support of our healthcare workers. With us not being able to have the April event, we weren't able to generate the traditional charitable dollars that we've had in the past. And this June event, knowing it's a made for TV event, this has given us an opportunity for this platform to give back, to those that have stepped up in an incredible way. But with COVID-19, there was no group, that had been more affected really than our incredible doctors and nurses and healthcare providers. And, they're the true heroes out there through this. So the Plaid Pledge program that we'll be announcing, working with our PGA Tour, South Carolina PGA Tour professionals are part of this. Our South Carolina leaders are a part of this. In addition to RBC and CBS will be a part of this, but 100% of the proceeds raised will be shared with the South Carolina Hospital Association Foundation and the Heritage Classic Foundation. But this will be announced on Monday and will be worked through the week and through CBS. And actually, a part of this too is a program that we're working with a tour on, and working with the South Carolina Hospital Association, as well as the Hilton Head Hospital, where we have the Frontline Workers Caddy Back program, which you'll see every PGA Tour professional and I'll use Rory McIlroy since we all know he had committed, and there'll be more today. But you'll see McIlroy's name on the caddy back as he normally does, but you also see one of the frontline workers' names on there as well. And it's a part of a program to recognize those that are the true heroes. And so it's a part of this program. But please, support it if you can. Plaid Pledge campaign, and in support of the healthcare workers, which will be you'll see more, and it'll be announced on Monday.
Steve, that sounds like an outstanding initiative, and we look forward to hearing more about the Plaid Pledge. Thank you for being with us this morning. I know you've got another busy day and evening ahead of you, but thanks for what you're doing, Steve, and being the best tournament director out there.
No, thank you, Bill, and thank you for being continuing these calls and all your support. But it's also we're all blessed to be a part of something very special in this community, and this community is like no other out there. So. Look forward to seeing her. Hopefully everyone gets to watch the tournament next week, and it's going to be great for all of us.
Thanks, Steve. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Our next speaker this morning is Dr. Panu, Dr. Al Panu, who is the chancellor at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. Last week, or within the last 10 days, they have some scheduling that they're talking about, and thought it would be very interesting for our listeners today to hear from Dr. Panu, knowing that August is just around the corner when students will be coming back. And so, Dr. Panu, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again this morning.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, everyone. I really want to thank you for the opportunity to give an update on our post-quarantine planning. After extensive really just looking at all the issues related to the different options that we had to consider regarding the fall. We were pleased to make the decision to return to face-to-face instruction this coming fall. We made several modifications to the plan to ensure continued safety and to anticipate the possibility of should we get maybe a second peak, how would we handle that? So though we're returning in the fall in mid-August as we normally do, we are going to do away with the fall break and allow the possibility to complete the entire semester by Thanksgiving, so that any activities that are typically required of students after Thanksgiving can only be done online if necessary. So that is giving us flexibility to really deliver the fall semester properly. We are recognizing that in spite of all the plannings that we have done, all the measures that we have taken and put in place, that there will still be some people who are hesitant to return. So we're prepared to give the flexibility of providing instruction online where necessary and called for. So we've made those announcements regarding those plans, and we are moving forward now with all of the preparation to ensure that we have adequate testing in place. We have set aside quarantine space. We are assembling all the resources, both human and software, regarding contact tracing. And we are also preparing a real broad and deep campaign on educating our students and our faculty and staff on effective ways in which we will be practicing behaviors that are really going to limit the possible spread of COVID-19. And so we're relying on both video, on written material, on signage. We have just taken lots of measures in place that we think will work well for us. And as I indicated, being flexible is going to be really critical, and we just know that that's going to be a challenge for us, and so we are really prepared to be flexible on those fronts. We setting aside plans to ensure that those particularly at risk will be accommodated, both on the part of our students as well as faculty and staff. We were very saddened that we had to scrap the plans for the live commencement that we had scheduled for August 29th. Instead, we've had, by virtue of decision of the board, to go to virtual commencements. But we're pleased to be able to add a parade event that's going to be a drive-in event just to really celebrate our graduates. They've worked hard, and we really wanted to look at every way in which we can help to celebrate and recognize this milestone in their lives, and give their family and friends a chance to really safely, social distancing ways to celebrate their accomplishments. So we have at the end of this month a parade that we have scheduled, and we'll put announcements regarding those events. It's really unfortunate that we've had this pandemic, because USCB has had a particularly productive year in spite of it. Our students have done tremendous. We have, for the first time, I'm pleased to say, a couple of our students are going to graduate programs at Harvard and at Hopkins, and we have faculty who have been recognized with awards that statewide and national awards, computational programs that have been recognized, and it's happened in spite of all of this this pandemic season. So we really take great pride in some of our students. However, having said that, all of the higher education industry is planning for a challenging fall enrollment season. It's anticipated that we will see enrollment down somewhere in a range from 10 to 20%, and 15% seems to be an average that is put out there that most institutions are seeing. So it's going to be a huge challenge. Lots of people who are still kind of staying on the sideline and not sure whether they want to take time off or return. And if any of you would know such individuals, please encourage them to take a look at USCB. We're really excited about where we are and where we're going. And as for return to campus plans, we are rolling out partial phased-in return. We'll have probably 25% of our workforce returning probably for 2 weeks ahead of the next group, and we have about 3 or 4 phases that we are envisioning for return that will begin this summer. So we're excited about that as well. We've taken all the measures that we need to, deep cleaning, just any kinds of CDC recommended measures that we need to have in place, and just really pleased about that. And finally, I just want to say thank you to Steve again and to the Heritage Foundation for the opportunity to closely work with them in hosting the registration for the RBC Heritage, and we're excited about that. So that's a brief report from where we are, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, Bill.
Dr. Panu, thank you. And we had several questions for you, and you have you've answered each of those during your discussion, and they were about enrollment, about commencement, about a phased-in return, etc. So you were right on point as always, Dr. Panu. So thank you for being with us. We'll look forward to having you back on as we get a little closer to the students returning to campus.
Thank you.
Our last speaker this morning, we're fortunate to have back William Furman, and William is the senior area manager for SBA. And William, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's good to be here as always. Just wanted to kind of give you an update on where we are this week, what's going on as far as our PPP loans as well as EIDL loans. Tom did a great job on covering some of the changes, but I just want to add a few and maybe put some of my spin on it. But the big news is that Congress and the President did pass the Ppp Flexibility Act this week. There's a couple of changes that I'm not sure that he spoke about, but it did increase the maturity on the new PPP loans from 2 to 5 years. So it will have a longer, for any portion that is not forgiven, it will have a longer repayment period on these new loans. The other thing, and this is important, it does confirm that June 30th is the last date that a PPP loan can be approved. So if you have any businesses, if there are any businesses that have not applied, you need to go ahead. I can't stress this enough. You need to go ahead and apply now. June 30th is not the last date to apply. It is the last date that these loans can be approved. So the lenders need to have time to process the loans and get them in the SBA system. And so if you're still thinking about applying for a PPP loan or know someone that has not applied that maybe should, now is the time. You certainly don't want to wait on that. One of the other changes is that loans will remain in deferral until SBA reimburses the lender. And so if the loan were to happen to go past the deferral period as in the note, SBA will be, that will be extended until SBA repurchases or reimburses that lender for the forgiven portion of the loan. So those are some important items that are included in this new act. And so now we're waiting on SBA and the Treasury to issue a new PPP loan application, a new forgiveness application, and then the new IFR for forgiveness. And then I'm pretty sure we have a backlog of frequently asked questions that need to be published as well. We haven't seen any of those in a couple of weeks now, so I know there's probably a backlog there. So I think in the next week to 10 days, it's going to be, there'll be a flurry of information that is going to come out. I have talked to some lenders, and they're starting to see applications for forgiveness now. And I would just say, be my recommendation, if you've used your funding and you're ready to start applying for forgiveness, at this point I would wait to submit your forgiveness application until the new interim final rule and the new application is published. I think that is going to be in your favor if you will just wait on that. Now, somebody asked a question about a simplified application, and from what I understand, a simplified application is in discussion within SBA and the Treasury. Now, this simplified application will likely be, if it comes to fruition, it is likely going to be directed to smaller loans, and I'm thinking loans of $50,000 or less. So, it would be for those smaller loans. So we'll just have to wait and see how all this shakes out. Again, a week to 10 days would be my guess. It's kind of funny, but whenever SBA and Treasury post these important IFRs and applications, they tend to do it on Friday evening for some reason. So if you don't have anything to do on a Friday night, you may want to go into Treasury and check to see what's been published there. But there is still approximately $130 billion left in PPP funding availability. So plenty of funds are available. We're just getting to the point now where we're going to start running out of time. As of the 6th, there were just under 59,000 loans made in South Carolina for $5.6 billion, which is actually the same number I reported last week. So, the actual applications and loans have slowed down to just a mere trickle on those. As far as economic injury disaster loans go, unfortunately, there is no news this week on that. The portal is still closed to all businesses with the exception of agricultural enterprises, and there is no information on when or if that EIDL portal will be reopened to the rest of small businesses. I am still getting a lot of calls from businesses that have actually received their EIDL disaster loans, as well as businesses that have been declined for one reason or another. And so if you'd like to talk to me about that, again, I'll be more than happy to do that, give you my advice on what you should do to proceed. Feel free to email me at william.furman@sba.gov. And we will. I can reach out to you, and we'll definitely try to assist you with that situation. So, not as far as the the Flexibility Act passed this week, but that was the real big news. And I guess the devil will be in the real details of the interim final rule. So we'll just have to wait to see, and hopefully that will come out before this time next week. Hope they get that out soon. So with that, if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer those.
Okay, William, thank you so much. We have a question here from Linda, and Linda is asking, did they change the forgiveness paperwork to the EZ1, the EZ1 application?
So that has not been released yet. Again, we'll just have to, the Act, Ppp Flexibility Act passed. We do know that they're going to issue a new application. We don't know the exact format that will look like. Again, there may be a simplified application for smaller PPP loans. We just have to wait to see, try to be patient and wait to see what is actually issued.
Okay, William, thank you. We have two questions here from Jody. The first one being, when will we have details on how to complete the PPP forgiveness application?
Yeah, I would think we're going to see that within the next week. I know they're working hard to get that out. A lot of loans are, for those folks that were trying to meet the goal of the 8 weeks, those 8 weeks are up for some people. Now that has been extended. Don't want to confuse anybody. That has been extended to 24 weeks. So you got plenty of time. But if you have used all of your funds, I would wait for the new application and new IFR to come out, and then you can go ahead and start working on that for your forgiveness.
Okay, thank you. And the next question she had was, is a calculator available to use yet?
There are some calculators out and about. There's nothing that's been endorsed by SBA. SBA does not have a calculator. Tom was talking about that, and I wouldn't be surprised. I would agree with him. At some point, I would not be surprised to see SBA, either issue a calculator or have someone else, basically obtain a calculator to use. But once you understand the general concepts of that application, even the existing one, it is not that it's not that complicated. Once you understand the concepts.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, how can a business make sure it has followed all the rules and new rules for forgiveness?
So that new IFR will be published. We will also be doing some training and webinars. We're partnering with some of our resource partners, both SCORE and the Small Business Development Centers, and we'll be having some webinars on that. We're trying to get those scheduled now, but it's difficult to schedule those when we don't have the rules in hand. So As soon as we get those in hand, we'll be setting up some webinars and training sessions that will help small businesses understand exactly what they need to do.
All right, William, that concludes the questions for you today, and thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks for joining us again this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's going to conclude our call today. I do want to let you know that next week we are going to, we won't be having a call next week, but due to the tournament, but we will resume the following week on June the 24th. So please watch for information to be coming out about that. We're looking forward to having the Superintendent of Education, Molly Spearman, with us at one of these calls, as well as Jackie Gifford back on, and we have several others that I think individuals you'll really enjoy hearing speak. So thank you for being with us again today, and thanks for all you do for the community. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.